I'll go first. Shall I get you a box? You gotta know one.
I like the one that Gandalf does to Frodo about, you know, it is not our job to decide, you know, what, I can't remember.
What to do with it.
Were there any lines in that movie?
Yeah, you get the
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
And you have my bow.
What's so funny is when we were talking about you guys coming over, I went, yeah, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard, yeah, I suppose, yeah. It's a whole one. Where's the next question, number 2?
It's number 2 over there.
Hello, number 2.
How you doing? You okay? Question is for Elijah. Your last shot in Return of the King is, I forget the line now, not quite there's room for a little more. What's the juxtaposition of your character saying goodbye to Middle-earth against Peter Jackson, who wasn't really ready to let go of Middle-earth? You talked about filming that shot.
That's so interesting. That's a really good question. I remember filming that, so that little bit of essentially finishing his part in the book in Baggin. And it was the last shot that I filmed in the entire, because we would go back every film, I'm sure all of you know this, but we would go back every year for additional filming for each film and do pickups, and so that was the last bit I ever shot. It was really emotional because it was so symbolic of the end of Frodo's journey and handing that over to Sam. The legacy of it, the you know, essentially it's your adventure to take now, it's your story to write. All of the weight of that, you know, and it was deeply emotional. Peter, Fran, and Philippa were sat by the monitor, all of them crying. You know, it certainly informed on the sort of performance for me, the underlying. I mean, obviously it's an emotional moment for Frodo, but in a different way, not in a sort of overt way. So yeah, it was heavy. But the sort of what you're saying, that juxtaposition of the end of Frodo's to sort of Pete's then journey going forward, I don't think he quite knew in that moment that he would be carrying on. Certainly not to Middle-earth again and to taking on The Hobbit, because that, we asked him while we were shooting Rings whether he wanted to make The Hobbit, and he wanted nothing to do with it. He wasn't interested in The Hobbit, and that kind of came later. But it was an incredible moment and very powerful way to end.
Thank you very
Can
much.
I ask a question? Elijah, do we know what the very last thing that was filmed for Lord of the Rings was?
I don't know, actually.
No, Sean, do you know? Does somebody know? No? We don't know.
I
We don't know what was the last. No?
I suspect it would have been, yeah, it'll be
Like
technical, like...
But like last cast who was out, do we know?
Don't know. There has to be a last cast moment. I don't know what that is. Anyone knows here?
Yeah, who knows?
What the record
Do you know?
Super fans.
Was it not Gollum's reaction to learning Frodo was going to destroy the ring, and it was shot at Peter Jackson's house just before the awards, because it was very, very late pickup?
Oh, that's
Very possible.
That's possible.
Well done. Thank you.
I think we're going to take the next question from number 4 at the back over there. We're doing it like a clockwise type of thing.
We should probably make 3, 4 then. Can you swap
You didn't know Dom has OCD, is really firing right now.
You can't go too thoughtfully.
Hi, I was wondering what scene you found the most fun to film.
Most fun to film.
There was a scene that really made me laugh a lot, and it was because of something that Orlando said. There's a scene where Legolas tells Merry and Pippin about lembas bread. How it's so good for giving you energy, and 2 small bites will, fill a grown man for a week, kind of thing. And we were doing the scene and everything was fine. We'd set it up, and then we'd stopped as they were moving a light or something. And Orlando said to me, came over to me and Dom and said, I don't know how to do this, because when I'm doing it, it just feels like I'm doing an advert. For lembas bread. And after that, every time he tried to say it, I could just see him in the TV doing an advert.
It really did feel like that. It felt like giving an effort, like, and that was my first time, right?
Was it?
Yeah,
Was
like-
that and we're sitting in that.
No, that was my
little
first
boat.
movie, so I was really like, wait, this just feels like.
And it was quite a week,
Wow.
because you had to walk over and just
Yeah.
basically say that, and we're just looking at you.
I remember.
We had our own experience with lembas bread. Andrew Jack, the late wonderful dialect coach that we had, one of our 2 dialect coaches, he kept saying to me that I had to elongate the vowels. Elongate. So I said the lembas bread. He said, no, elongate the lembas bread. The lembas bread. The lembas bread. He's like, well, elongate the vowels. I just frustrated the lembas bread. We had the rushes, when you see the previous day's work, and it was at night, and the whole cast was gathered around, and I'm sitting next to Elijah, right? And it comes on, and it's a nice big fat close-up, and big as the whole thing, the
Is that
I get stuck, potato, you know what I mean? That's a nice shiny apple. That was the line that they I couldn't quite do the accent the way they wanted us to do it. I'm just, slow or something. And Andrew got a tape of a West Country farmer. Said, well, that's a nice shiny apple. Before every line of dialogue I had written, that's a nice shiny apple.
We've got another question. I do apologise, we're going to number 3. Whoever's at number 3, can I have a question for Dom? Just to...
Yeah, it's my daughter's 8th birthday today, Harper. She's sitting 2 seats from the back. She's been lucky enough to meet you all. And she didn't want to party with her friends. She wanted a Lord of the Rings weekend.
Good taste.
I was wondering if you all give her a happy birthday song.
Is it Harper, he said?
Yeah.
Oh, you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Harper. Happy birthday to you. Did you tell her I elongated the vowels?
It's actually my birthday as well today. I didn't ask for a song.
It's actually John Rhys Davies' birthday today as well, apparently.
It is, yeah.
Happy birthday.
All the best people. Number 1, hello.
Hi guys, thank you so much for coming. It's been wonderful to meet all of you this weekend. Elijah, sorry I went silent on you. Nerves, horrible things. Anyway, question. Were there any decisions that your character made throughout the course of the trilogy that you didn't agree with? And if so, what would it be?
Is this for all of us?
Yeah.
Taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Well, I've got one that it's like slightly to your point, but just a little adapted, which always slightly frustrated me. In the books, when Gandalf is struggling to get to open the doors to Moria, it's Merry that solves the riddle for him. and I was on set, a 24-year-old young man, and Pete and Fran are very smart, very shrewd people, And Fran could always make me do anything because Fran's just a beautiful elven princess. And she came over to me and put my arm around me and said, Dom, we're thinking of giving that moment to Frodo. And I just went, oh. Why? And Fran said, well, we're trying to establish this stronger connection between Frodo and Gandalf before there's kind of a break between everyone, and it's important to just try and have those connections. We'll find something else for you. And you can't say, you're not in a position to say yes or no anyway, but I remember thinking, I don't have a lot to do in these films. Elijah has quite a bit more. So I didn't really agree with that.
So, you know that there were many units, first unit, second unit, A unit, B unit, helicopter unit, insert unit, this, scale double unit. So, sometimes Fran and Philippa would direct stuff. And we were doing the Kirith Ungol scene. And Sam was a reluctant ring bearer. When he thinks Frodo's killed by Shelob, and he takes it, he's going to pick up the mission, and then when he realizes he's not dead, he goes swashbuckling all the way up and kills Shagrat or Shag or whatever, and then Frodo wakes up and is like, give me the effing ring now. And I'm like, okay, well, they wanted me to have a moment where I didn't want to give it to him because maybe I wanted it for myself, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Sam wouldn't know. And Sam's like, so your job as an actor is to do what they tell you to do, but you try and reconcile it with what you want to do. So if you look at that scene, I was having a bad wig day. My wig is like kind of stuck up in the back and looks really stupid, and I do this thing where I pull it away for just a second, and what I was thinking to myself in that moment is, oh, I don't want to give it to him because it's going to hurt him. And if it plays to them like maybe Sam's hesitating for himself, then I fooled them.
Does anyone want to ask me a question? Because I've got to leave now. I'm so sorry. I've got a flight to catch, unfortunately, so I'll be out.
Who was your favorite Hobbit?
All four of you, all together at the same time.
Can I ask a question? You said it was your first film, and then Dominic alluded to reading the book and finding out, obviously, his character was things. Did you read the book in advance? Did you know what was coming for Legolas, and how did you prepare?
Oh, what mate? You alright? Yes. I had read the books in advance. I'd actually read The Hobbit years before, but then I obviously read Lord of the Rings. I think for everyone it was like a bit of a Bible. I think you always said that, and it was like we would always refer to our characters from the book. Back then, there wasn't emails. I used to send faxes to Pete and Fran saying, well, I think Legolas brings this news about Gollum when he comes to Rivendell, and that's a really important piece of information. Because that's the whole sort of, and it's equally to you, similar to you. I think we all had, lots of ideas that we were attached to, that we had to obviously let go of at different times just to serve the film, which I think, obviously worked out really well for the film, and actually for all of us in turn. But it was, there was just, I think you couldn't not have the books sort of inscribed in you, and I think there was a huge sense of responsibility that we all felt to bring these characters alive, and it was certainly as my first role, it was like, wow, this has felt like a lot of responsibility, but also, we were super supported by the production, by Pete and Fran and everyone, lots of movement training, lots of dialect. I mean, I think I was the first to get there, actually. I was like there, and then you guys came in, right? And I was like there for 3 months, and I was like, just kind of being taken to horse riding classes. And I was like, this is amazing. And archery and stuff like that. But then you guys came in. We flew together. That's a lie. We flew together.
Yeah, and a plane.
We flew together. We saw each other in the airport, and it was really funny because it was his birthday, and we had a glass of champagne that was free, I think, right? Something like that. We were flying business, were we? Possibly. And yeah, but it was so funny. What was the first thing you said to me? I think you came over and said, "You look like an elf."
Yeah.
Which is really weird because you wouldn't have known what I looked like, right?
No, I didn't.
No.
They just said you're flying with someone, Orlando Bloom, and he's playing the elf Legolas. And I was going down to get some money changed into New Zealand money, you know, in the little hut that they have in an airport. And I saw this guy, and I was like, you know, looks like an elf. I thought, I'm going to ask him. I said, you're not Orlando Bloom.
And then it was your birthday, we had a nice.
And then we learnt the poem, if you remember, on the flight, because obviously it's like 30 hours to get there. And we tested each other on one ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
Because we both had the book, obviously, and I was like, okay, go.
Oh man, I have to say, that was so magical, wasn't it? Arriving in that country. Oh.
Do you remember when we arrived as well, they gave us the script in a leather bound with your name on it. It was just, it felt like so special, didn't it?
Yeah, there was so much. That was very magical about that experience. Anyway, I just want to say thank you all very much for having me. I haven't done many Comic-Cons, but you've been amazing. It's been so nice to say hello and hi and take photos and sign things, and I hope you've all had a great one, and I'm sorry I have to dash off. And as for you lot, on your bike.
Who was that?
He was lovely, wasn't he? Who was that?
He smelled lovely, didn't he?
One of your friends? I feel like this is where the trouble's going to start now. George Martin's exited the picture. It's just a fact for.
Feels like the teachers left, doesn't it?
I feel like there's mischief in the air. You alluded to going to New Zealand together on the plane and meeting there. You guys, I mean, you're a brotherhood. You are family. It's been 25 years this year since you started filming. You were in New Zealand for about 2 years?
16 to 18 months of principal photography. Yeah.
And somehow you're still all really good friends.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
We're family.
It is. Is it more than that? Yeah.
It transcends friendship. I think one of y'all said it. It's unconditional. It's like we've seen each other through so many different phases of each other's lives in 25 years. You know.
You've got like kids now? What's happening?
Yeah, that's what happens when you have friendships for this long. I said this at the last convention, I think, is you obviously see all colours of those humans and you accept them all because you love all parts of them. You love the good and the bad because you're like, well, I just want to know you in however way you show up. You know? That's really, for me at least, that's what it means to be a friend, is like, when it's good, I'm still your friend. When it's bad, I'm still your friend. You know, that's how it works.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like there's a lesson in it for people. You know, the big curiosity whenever we would go anywhere right after the films came out was, you know, is it true? Is it real? Are you really friends? Do you really like it? Are you really like your character? You know, the fantasy was so wonderful that people wanted to confirm it, that it's actually real. And when you are part of a project that you're proud of and it's important, you go into it and there's an expectation that you're gonna, you know, as a professional, you're gonna have a good relationship. And I suppose sometimes maybe it doesn't work out like that, but when you go into it with that intention, it's worse, you know, human beings are pretty powerful. we set our intention right at the beginning, and it hasn't changed.
And did you spend a lot of time together before the shoot, like rehearsing? Orlando would have gone to horse riding school, you guys would have learned to smoke pipe weed? I don't know. So a lot of those movies you're just smoking and eating. Like some of my friends are like that, you know.
No, we did, like Billy said, he flew in with Orlando. I think I was the last out of the gang to get here because I was finishing off a job, but very quickly we jumped into full days of script rehearsals, dialect training, horse riding, sword fighting, kayaking. What else were we doing?
Wardrobe fittings.
Costume fittings, makeup tests, putting the feet on, putting the ears on, walking around, scale double rehearsals. It was I thought I was going to get there because I knew that it was a ways off, probably at least 5 or 6 weeks off before we started principal photography. And I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm just going to be in New Zealand for a month and a half hanging out. But every single day apart from Sunday was spoken for, wasn't it?
Yeah, we got there in August. We didn't shoot till October. Wow. Yeah.
And when we got off,
We were working all the time, you know.
when we got off the plane, there was this urgency. Oh, you got to get right to Weta. They're gonna have a thing. Oh, they're gonna show you this thing, and I remember a lot of times thinking, like, when did they plot it out?
And we did so much canoe training, and I don't think I was ever in a canoe. But
if you would have been in a canoe, you were ready.
I never needed to be in a canoe. I could do everything in a canoe.
Also, it was brilliant because I think it was Sean Bean in the same canoe as Orlando.
No.
That was John
Rhys Davies.
But at one point, he
So
was,
Orlando kept flipping it over, and John's like, oh my god, you know.
there was something that happened with Orlando and Sean with the kayaks because they got in some sort of spat where I think one of them was I think Sean, because Sean could be quite fun and silly, I think Sean was kind of splashing in Orlando and then it kicked off. And just watching those two having a fight was kind of fun.
It's quite fun, but the idea of Sean Bean being fun and silly is something that's...
Oh, Sean Bean's hilarious. Sean Bean is hilarious. He's just very droll, very Yorkshire, you know what I mean? So almost he's very funny. Very funny.
We met him at the same time, right? We met Sean at the same time.
Sean Bean.
Yeah.
Did we?
Yeah, we were in Queenstown, and you and I were playing 007
Oh, yeah.
video game, which is very realistic violence. And
Goldeneye, obviously.
and he played 006.
That's right.
And so we had the door open to the dressing room that we're sitting in, we're playing, and I can't remember who was who, but 006 comes on the screen and boom, bullet shot, right? He drops and then he walks by. We're like, oh.
Also, we should say, because this might be quite fun for the crowd here, we went out for dinner last night and we were trying to teach Elijah to do a Scouse accent. Let's give us a little
Chicken.
Chicken and a can of Coke.
Where?
As a Scouser, I am honoured that you can do our accents.
We had a couple of drinks last night, but his accent last night was perfect.
Just sitting in about 8 years.
Today.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really like that in Liverpool, the whole, oh, see you later, La. How are you doing, La? So I was teaching those guys.
We're a friendly city, aren't we?
Very friendly.
We welcome everyone to our city.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Number 2, got any chicken? No? what question have we got?
I'm really. My name is Evie. I'm from the Netherlands, and my question is, what is the weirdest or funniest thing ever happened to you, like on a premiere or like with fans, kind of things?
It's not so weird, but kind of extraordinary that it's not really what you're asking, so...
That's weird.
But the premiere for Return of the King in New Zealand was a parade, and I have never in my fucking life experienced a citywide parade for the film, where it was like the event of the city, and people were on top of buildings and out of windows. getting a view of this parade, and we came down Courtney Place in vintage cars, and it was.
But some of the stats, I think it was something like 10% of the country
were there.
Which is
not including sheep.
Yeah. The sheep had a day off.
We went to Japan, which is an amazing country, beautiful, beautiful people. But sometimes when you do these TV shows, like if you're doing the One Show or something like that, they might ask you to do a couple of little throws to what's going on. So they might say, hey, could you just say, hey, I'm doing the One Show later on, tune in, or I'm here with Billy Boyd, we're doing the One Show, we look forward to seeing it. And the 3 of us, if not the 4 of us, did a show called Pooh. Remember? And we had to do all these throws. I'm like, hi, I'm Elijah Wood, and you're on Pooh. That was a big way.
I'm remembering now. Japan is amazing. The TV shows were a gas. Oh my god, it's so funny.
It's deadly. You know what's going to happen. They're like, oh, and the guy next to you just got an arrow in the chest. Okay, that was, okay. I hope the light doesn't come on me now. When in the Wellington thing, they had a huge airplane painted with all of us on the side of the airplane, and it did a flyover of where we were filming. And if you ever watch the when the American president is elected, and the motorcade is coming down from where they take the oath of office, and then the president always makes a spontaneous stop of the vehicles and gets out to show they're men of the people, and they walk through. That's what we did, and there was more red carpet. It was like half a mile of red carpet to walk on. You're like, you were walking forever, right? Yeah, that's gotta be up there on the strange meter.
That's the biggest one, yeah.
So when you did the press tour, obviously you guys would have been everywhere, all over the world, and you would have done that together as well. I spoke to Brad Dourif last year. He said he was partnered up with Christopher Lee, and they did their press events together. Were you guys together? But
there's a famous.
In interviews, did we get paired?
Sometimes
we got paired. Yeah.
Yeah.
We get paired.
Yeah, one time I was with Christopher Lee, and I've no idea why.
The question is, because Christopher Lee was like allegedly the inspiration for James Bond. He was in World War. He killed dudes. And I was going to say, have you got stories about Christopher Lee and what was it like working with him? Because Brad Dourif said he greeted every different nationality in their
language.
Yes.
Yes, he spoke multiple languages.
That's right.
Elijah and I watched him. We were on set one time, and Elijah and I watched him. He took a big pen, like a biro, and he threw it at the tree, and it stuck in the tree.
He and I sat next to each other on a flight from Auckland back to Los Angeles.
Oh boy.
Well, he's an older man, and I'm a talker, so I was like, well, I'm just going to be, it's true, I know. I accept myself for who I am. But I just thought, I'm going to be, I'm going to give him his space or sleep or whatever. He turned like this, and I turned like this, and I was 10 hours of non-stop talking between the two of us. And then when another time we went to Paris, and he brought me to a club on the Champs-Élysées. He had one of these, gentlemen's club sounds like strippers, but it was a club.
For gentlemen.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
They know, yeah. It's like something out of Golden, like out of James Bond. And we went in there, and it was like he made it was a thing that he brought me into this club, and we stood out, and he's like, this is where we stood, like, when the war was over. It was pretty, when the parade happens, so it was.
In Paris as well, I think it was like Dior or something, there was a store, or like an expensive, fashionable store, and his wife had went into the store, and there was one wall was like wallpaper of an old picture, black and white photograph of a model, beautiful young woman. And she says, do you know who that is? And they said, no, we've looked for years and we don't know who it is. And she says, it's me. And and it was Christopher Lee.
It was Peter. Wow.
Isn't that brilliant?
He also smoked cigars, and he invited me at one point, like to, you know, like a mentor. Yeah, come have a cigar. And the two of us sat on Stone Street and smoked a cigar together. It was freaking rad.
Yeah, he was amazing.
He was lovely.
You got to obviously work with some incredible actors, and obviously he was one of them. And his story about the pen, I had the same thing, but he threw a nail into a dartboard and got a bullseye from across the room. Yeah. That dude was...
He would have done poorly at an autograph signing show, I'll say that. He can do a lot.
Albums like heavy metal albums
Did
as
they?
well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen in the DVD extras his farewell speech where he's almost in tears and he's saying to all of us, we were all there, like, and obviously he's addressing people more than anyone else, but he's saying like, in my entire career I've never done anything this great, and you guys have done something extraordinary, and I'll always remember this. And he was very moved by it, and that's Christopher Lee. I mean, what?
Don't judge me. But on my TikTok, I just watched that.
Did you?
Yeah, I know that my TikTok's been hijacked by Lord of the Rings behind the scenes stuff, and I'm seeing things I never saw before. The algorithm has learned that I'm really interested in myself.
Mine is just dances. I'll learn all those dances, TikTok dances. I love it.
Oh yeah, Billy was trying to teach us a Korean dance, but never got around to it.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you. I might ask you. Oh, you want to do it? No, okay. No, we're going to go take a question from number 4. Sorry.
Hi, my name's Danny. I'm going to apologise to Elijah in advance for this question. So I'm doing this on behalf of a friend. And the question is...
You don't have to.
To be fair, I actually think it's quite a funny question.
All right.
It doesn't help that I'm a chef, so I've added to it. So, judges again. When orcs say meat is back on the menu, does that imply that they know of the existence of restaurants in Mordor? And if so, how do they eat said meat? Do they marinate it, or do they like to just barbecue it?
No.
Apologies.
This is the thing that happens in modern writing for old times. It happens a lot. In Star Wars, the Last Jedi, there's a whole like when he's talking to General Hux, and he's like, hold for General Hux, like it's a fucking telephone call. Sorry, like let me patch you in. What the fuck are you talking about? So the same thing, like meat's back on the menu. What menu are they talking about? Definitely, it's that thing where you just take liberty because it's a fun joke, you know. It's a good bit of writing.
Doesn't help
and
if
it
he
gets attention,
cosplays
but-
as Luke Skywalker, so that's just made it even.
What's that?
He cosplays as Luke Skywalker, so you've just made that even.
Oh well, perfect. I tied it all together.
I think he buried the lead on that question when he says sweet meat. Is that the one you're talking about?
There is a sweet meat, but I think it's a different character.
Whatever, but it's the same general reference. It's the same.
It's sweet. Now, she's implying the notion of a restaurant with the.
I think you're conveniently skipping over what's being served. Us. Sweet meat.
Number 3 at the back. No more culinary questions, please.
No, it's hi. First of all, thank you for bringing us Lord of the Rings, greatest movie series of all time. But my question is for Billy and Dom. After the Battle of Isengard, one of the most iconic scenes of when you're both smoking long bottom leaf after the battle, what character could you spawn in with you to share that with you, and why?
You mean a character from the Lord of the Rings world?
Yeah, character from Lord of the Rings, book, series, or movie.
I mean, like the easy answer for someone to be sat enjoying pipe with would probably be Gandalf the Grey, right? I mean, he's fond of it. He's fond of it. And just to slightly digress on your question, Pete actually said to Billy and I when we were doing that scene, let's do a few different passes of this. Let's do it tired. Let's do it excited. Let's do it drunk. Let's do it inebriated on pipeweed. We'll just leave it at that. For the kids in the audience. But what do you think?
You don't mean do it as though, you mean do it.
You wanted us to act.
I understand.
Tom Bombadil.
Oh, Tom Bombadil.
Be fantastic. Sit and smoke a pipe with him. That'd be fantastic.
Smoke it all himself.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It'd be like a 10-hour flight with Christopher Lee. He'd tell you some stuff.
I'm buying a blink.
I love Tom Bombadil.
Before we move on to the next question, obviously we've not really spoken about Peter Jackson, who at the time was primarily known for horror films and like Heavenly Creatures, like a New Zealand drama, and then to give him the keys to the biggest fantasy franchise in existence and to make 3 films consecutively at once was possibly a bit of a surprise. What was your relationship like with Peter? How was it working with such an incredible filmmaker and a gifted man?
I remember being really thrilled when I heard that he was directing it, actually. I was a big fan of his work, primarily Heavenly Creatures and The Frighteners. And it weirdly made a lot of sense to me, especially Heavenly Creatures, which is a kind of, it has fantastical elements as it pertains to their dream world that they create for each other. And it's also rooted in real human drama, these characters that are going through a pretty heinous thing in their deep relationship and then ultimately this murder that they carry out together. I love that film so much. So I was just, I was thrilled to work with him and to go down to New Zealand, and I'd heard tell of the sort of world that he created down there with Weta and the effects company and the kind of things that they were creating, and it sounded thrilling and exciting. You know?
So my father, John Aston, the original Gomez Adams family, he played a character called the Judge in Frighteners. And he had his jawbone sticking out, and he'd been dead for a long time, and he had a bloodhound that had been dead for a long time. And he came to my wife and I had a little house, 2-bedroom house in the valley in Los Angeles, Sherman Oaks, and he and my stepmom came over with pictures of his experience with Weta. And he showed the entire mold process, and he basically introduced us in the pictures to Richard and Tanya, and he just described this filmmaking experience, this fantasy world that was, like from another time, another world. I mean, and it made it so. I was so envious of him when he described it, and then when we got the movie. And when I got the movie, I was like, I'm going to get to go and do what my dad did. And then when we got down there, Peter has what they call in the military command presence. He just is very confident, and he inspires confidence in everyone who's around him. And he's either always prepared or he can fake it better than anybody I've ever met. And you just sort of. It doesn't seem like such a big thing that they handed over the keys to this big thing to him, and they would have been missing out if they didn't do it. He presented a huge opportunity for them. And you only had to look at for 2 seconds at the concept design work and the little bits of video, or whatever, like computer simulations they did, and it's, so yeah.
That sounds good. Were you guys the same?
Yeah, totally. I think he's like, people throw the word genius around, but I think he is a filmmaking genius, and I think his whole life had led up to that. Like, he was making masks on himself to learn mask making, when he was younger. So years and years of learning all these skills that you felt like he could go into anyone's job on set and do it perfectly, So he was absolutely the perfect guy to do it.
Weirdly, he went on to do the Beatles movie as well, didn't he? That's really strange.
And they're from here.
We have got 3 minutes and 40 seconds left. I have been talking your ear off for nearly 45 minutes, guys. I appreciate your time, and I know they appreciate your time. We've got time for one last question, and I'm going to let you pick it.
Oh, really? What number?
Pick, yeah, go.
Where were we last?
So,
Sorry.
3 was the last one.
We were at 3 last. I'm getting a lot of people saying that the number one should go, so we'll give it to the number 1. Sorry, 2, 4, 3.
Hi, thank you for that. So you mentioned TikTok before, and this is just a funny question to kind of end the afternoon. I don't know if you remember Dom and Elijah, you did an interview about 20 years ago.
Never forget.
And I kind of just wanted to ask if there are any updates to the following questions. Do you wear wigs? Or will you wear wigs, and when will you wear wigs?
I do. I have. I certainly will again. And as to when, or where?
It was when, I think.
When?
Yeah.
When will I wear wigs? There's actually a movie called The Toxic Avenger that's a remake of a Toronto film that'll come out sometime later this year, hopefully. I wear a wig in that.
You know what's funny about that thing though? I'm sure it's funny about some of our other experiences in Lord of the Rings. Certainly for me, with that particular thing that went on, you can never tell ever what's going to catch fire. If someone were to say to me, you know, in that Lord of the Rings experience, what are going to be the moments that are going to stand out? I might say, oh, this and that. I would have never said, oh, this silly little interview that I did with Elijah is going to have some sort of abiding legacy. But Billy is on TikTok all the time, and I know Sean as well. Constantly, Billy will be like, that wig thing is on again.
We have the same TikTok.
Yeah. You know what? We never think about this. Hans Jensen should have his own interview show.
You know, I pitched it to Pete.
Did you?
Because Pete loved it so much, and I was like, why don't you, knowing that it's Hans Jensen, why don't you let me interview you as Hans? And Pete was like, oh, that's a good idea. It didn't happen.